Hello chess friends and welcome to the Art of Chess channel and welcome back to our best chess games of all time series. So in this series we're following the best of the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history, and today I wanted to show a very brilliant game that was played in 2019 between Jonas Buhl Bjerre and Daniil Dubov. So you know the grip, whenever we cover some Daniil Dubov games, they're really wild, they're really with some sharp tactics, with some beautiful tactical goals, with some immortal sacrifices, and that's exactly what happened also in this game. I think we missed a little bit more Daniil Dubov like players now these days in top grandmaster level. Many times we see this positional battles, this positional struggles for one square, maybe for one structural weakness, but not Daniil Dubov. He's always trying to spice up some things. He's always trying to find some attacking opportunities. So that's why, of course, I decided to show more of his game. So let's check out now this tactical beauty. I flipped the board now from Black's perspective because I wanted to show you also some important ideas of the anti-martial and also about the martial attack that are possible in the Ruy Lopez. So here we witness sort of an anti-martial system by Daniil Dubov. I'll explain, of course, what's all about. So here e4 was played by Jonas Buhl Bjerre. We have e5 by Daniil Dubov. We have knight to f3, knight to c6, and after bishop to b5 we have the Ruy Lopez, the Spanish games on the board. So a6 we have the Morphy defense, we have bishop to a4, and after knight to f6 here Jonas Buhl Bjerre castle simply. Knight to e4 takes is, I think, not the best of ways. You face probably d4, rook to e1. There are many sharp sidelines that can happen to you, so that's why here in the continuation we have bishop to e7 by Daniil Dubov, and now comes rook to e1. We have b5, bishop to b3, and now comes kingside castling here by Daniil Dubov, and now comes one of the critical moments, I think, of the game. So here Jonas Buhl Bjerre plays the so-called anti-martial system. The martial attack would be something like d5 here, so that's why with this anti-martial system a4, Jonas Buhl Bjerre is not allowing d5 immediately because he's challenging already white here on the flanks. He's challenging white on the queen side. So that's why, for instance, if white would have played the move c3, then the martial attack would be perfectly fine. Then d5 would be probably the continuation. After e takes d5, knight to d5, and here probably knight to e5 could happen. Then you can take knight to e5, and here after rook to e5, then we fix simply the pawn structure with the move c6 here, and also we can play bishop to d6. So the cool part about the martial attack is that you have a beautiful compensation for the lost pawn. Here after move bishop to d6 you will attack simply the rook, and then with both of these bishops and with the support of the queen you could have really a dangerous attack against your opponent's king. And notice also in the martial attack that white has sort of a lack of development, so white needs to still develop the minor pieces somehow, has to play something like d3, has to include maybe the bishop into the game. So the knight is a little bit out of game because the c3 is taken. So this would be the beautiful martial attack, but that's why many times, as we said, white is playing the move a4 and it's not allowing the martial attack. But now Dubov is saying I will your anti-martial here with the move d5 anyway. So that was really a beautiful idea here by Daniil Dubov. It's maybe not the best of ways to play the game now when it comes to computer evaluations, but that's simply something that Daniil Dubov makes many times. He's just trying to complicate things. He's letting now the position explode now in the center of the board. So we have here e takes d5 by Jonas Buhl Bjerre, and now knight to a5. That's the main goal of this attack, because we want to get rid of the bishop and then mess up a little bit the pawn structure further. Probably for white here the best way is to proceed with bishop to a2 to leave even the things unprotected in the center of the board, but at least to stay with the bishop on the board where it's controlling the very important f7, and at least you didn't allow your opponent to take here on b3, and this move would of course cause some further structural weaknesses here on the queen side. But here the continuation, Jonas Buhl Bjerre played now knight to e5, took the centralized pawn, and here Dubov is saying, okay, I will take out now your bishop, but now I have the bishop pair on the board. I will cause now really some madness here on this diagonal. So after move knight takes b3, we have c takes b3, and here bishop to b7, developing the light square bishop, and here also attacking the pawn on d5. You could maybe here try knight to d5, but this would be good because of here this knight to c6 idea. So also what could happen here is 8x b5. Then you have to play something like bishop to b7, and then after something I don't know, b takes a6, rook to a6, and white is, I think, much better here because white is here 3 pawns against 1 pawn here on the queen side. Although black has still the bishop pair on the board, but this is not such a dangerous position anymore. White can hang on to this extra pawns that he gained. So that's why here in the continuation, after move knight to b3 and c takes b3, Daniil Dubov played bishop to b7. He's controlling now further the c6 square. So here Jonas played, I think, an interesting idea. He sacrificed this knight back. At least he says, okay, you have the bishop pair, but now at least I will take one of these bishops. I can take either the bishop on e7, or you will give up your lightfoot bishop here for the knight on c6. And this was, I think, a good choice to simplify the game, because now when one of these bishops is off the board, the game is not so complicated, the game is not so dynamic anymore. So that's why after move knight to c6 here, Daniil Dubov takes, bishop takes c6, we have d takes c6, and now bishop to c5. And now comes really the critical moment of this game. So there are many things that can be done. You have to develop further your pieces. Now you have to include more defenders into the game. You have to just get these 2 pieces out. And what to do now? What should we do? Should we play d3 or something, or should we play knight to c3? That's, I think, a really beautiful example how we should play first with the knight. We should always bring first sometimes out the knights into the game, because you have to include more defenders. The knight on c3 could be maneuvered here to e2, maybe to g3. At least this could be a defensive piece. For instance, if white would have played knight to c3, then of course something like b4 could happen, and still this knight could be pushed away, and in one particular moment probably black will recapture the pawn on c6, but then white can maybe develop finally the bishop with d3, bishop to f4, bishop to g5. So knight to c3 would be a normal idea here by white. But now Jonas Buhl Bjerre played d3, which is not so good, and here Daniil Dubov pulled off a very sharp tactical shot. Bishop takes f2. Of course you have to react. If you don't react, then you lose the rook on e1, so that's why king to f2 was played. And still this is not lost for white, because here after move queen to d4, the only way to defend this position is now to play king to g3. But this is not what Jonas played. He played bishop to e3, which was a huge mistake in the continuation of the game. But let's see now what would have happened if he would have played the move king to g3. Then of course you have to play a rook to e8. You have to include more attackers into the game, because you just cannot attack the position with the queen and the knight. So for instance, if something like rook to f1 would have happened, then the main tactical goal of blacks would be this move g5, with the idea of course to deliver checkmate on h4. And now black can defend this position by sacrificing the piece back, bishop to g5. And for instance, if queen to e5 happens and something like king to f2, if black takes here in this particular position, then white can escape, and white should be better here, because now here white has some extra pawns on the queen side, and also the pawn structure here is messed up in front of black's king. So that's why I think in order to stay in the game, black needs to just do perpetuals after king to g3, again queen to e5, queen to d4, queen to e5. So this game should probably end with a draw. So this is something that could have happened, but as we said here, Jonas played bishop to e3 and allowed now Daniil Dubov to play knight to g4, creating this double attack against the king and also against the bishop. So now king to f3 was played, and now knight takes e3. We have rook to e3, and now again this idea, rook to e8, we have to include more pieces into the attack. So here in the continuation, rook to e2 was played by Jonas Buhl Bjerre. If he would have played queen to d2, then the problem is this tactical sequence: rook to e3, queen to e3, and then here queen to b2. Then you of course lose the rook here. Even if you try something like, I don't know, rook takes e8, then still we can play rook takes e8. And even if you try, I don't know, to again include the queen into the defense. Then rook to e6 is very dangerous with ideas of to play rook to f6, then also to play rook to g6. Again, white is in serious problems. You can maybe develop further pieces just in order to defend yourself, but rook to f6, you can play something like king to g3, rook to g6. Again, you can try this idea, but now queen to g4 is very unpleasant. You lose also the g2 pawn, so the game is basically over here for white. So here king to f2, queen to g2, king to e1. Still we can again attack. We can also try queen to g1. The rook is lost here on the first rank, so it's one of the methods that loses for white for sure. So as I said, after a move rook from a to e8, here Jonas tried rook to e2. He tried to stay with his defenders around the king, but now of course Daniil Dubov plays queen to f6, gets a new annoying check. We have king to g3, and again this idea g5 with the idea of course to play queen to f4 to deliver checkmate. So that's why rook to f2, but now queen to d6, we have king to h3, and now after queen to h6 and king to g4, that's the only way to prolong the game. After queen to h4 in this position, Jonas resigns. So it was a beautiful king hunt. Let's see possible continuations. If you try something like king to f5, then the beautiful move is here f6. f6 is winning the game, because you can maybe try here the only way to prolong the game is to play queen to e2, but now with rook to e5, maybe you can take queen to e5. Now we can also take out the rook, and you have to escape. And now after f takes e5, it's probably checkmate. So you can do something like this, queen to c5, and again after queen to d6, this would be a checkmate. Notice that still these two pieces are undeveloped, so the lack of development many times in these martial systems, anti-martial systems, is always present for white. So it's a sharp game. You have to get these pieces into the game. So you see Jonas made, I think, the huge mistake where he could have played the move knight to c3. He played d3, allowed here Daniil Dubov to attack him, allowed this tactical shot on f2. Although we have seen also the game could have ended in a draw if Jonas would have defended the position in a good way, but unfortunately, or fortunately of course for the beauty of the game, he played now this crucial mistake. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas here in the Ruy Lopez in the anti-martial system. If you want to see more brutal attacks like this, check out my other games that we have covered so far in our commented chess games, the best chess games of all time series. And if you want to see the top engines battling it out in even sharper games, check out my commented chess games played by computer series, with some more games played by Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, Stockfish, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.